For the 7th time, the world's longest running live music entertainment show returns to the Scandinavian powerhouse of pop. It's Sweden. And this was how it was made. It's lucky number 7 for Sverige and magic number 3 for Malmö as the Eurovision Song Contest returns to Sweden and here to Malmö Arena. Yep, not many times. Or, as put by Pietra Mede,
we're back in Sweden, and I know, don't blame me, even I voted for Finland.
The contest returned to the hands of well-experienced broadcasters SVT with plans of a whole new look to the show. From vibrant minimalist branding and graphics to revolutionary in-the-round staging, viewers were enticed with a fresh way of watching 37 entries vying for glory. And in true SVT style, where the contest's 68-year run has seen landmark production changes while in the hands of the Swedish broadcaster. 1975 introduced the 12 points system as we know today. 1985 featured a singing host. That same year, 1992 and 2000 pioneered using the biggest arenas of the time. 2013 introduced the flag parade, and 2016 saw a new exciting way of revealing the results. The production could boast of having a cutting edge in technology, brains and manpower with some of the most accomplished and well-experienced producers and managers in the game. Some from as far back as the Swedish held contest 24 years ago, and one of them with a role in front of the camera as participant in 1992. All of this resulted in a show that dazzled both technically and visually. Sweden's third hosting in 11 years. A challenge to keep a 6-decade format fresh, but light work for the experienced. But after all, in the words of that overused New Year's Eve phrase, new year, new contest. So let's summarize all of this year's big changes in a section inspired by, I couldn't think of a catchy enough title for this bit. Answer the postcard if you do. But in the meantime, I call it Eurovision 24, old, new, borrowed and blue. On with the old. Well, not old, but back for this year. Malmö Arena here for the 2nd time. The slogan, United by Music, is back this year, introduced in last year's contest, and of course is the same 2 semi-final, 1 grand final we know and love.
So basically, nothing has changed.
Oh, doubting Linda. Sometimes you gotta believe! Yeah, aside from that, it's a hat trick. Pietra Mede is back for the 3rd time hosting Eurovision. She's joined by Hollywood superstar Malin Åkerman. On to the new. The Big Five and this year's host, Sweden, will all be performing in the semi-finals. A nice little development from little snippets to actual performances. LiveEdit will be taking the reins of all the visual direction. Not new to the Eurovision ecosystem, they've taken care of the Junior Eurovision Song Contest, for example, and if that was enough, have looked after shows such as the Super Bowl halftime show. Producer's Choice. This was introduced to give producers even more of an opportunity to enable songs to stand up in the grand final. On to Borrowed, an example for an event as huge as Eurovision, broadcast technology. As in previous years, NEP provide all of the broadcast facilities in the contest, an example of which, OB vans. Redundancy is vital, which means not 1, but 2 OB vans are provided, and in this case by way of borrowing, one from NEP Sweden, the other from NEP Netherlands. And okay, no, sorry, not that blue. Blue by way of colour, and from colour to theme art. This year's theme art is inspired by the Northern Lights, transposed into horizontal and vertical lines of light. And sometimes, why not both? This year's postcards feature the best in old and new, from a classic entry that we all know and love to something a bit more recent. All of this led by some of the most experienced names, not just in Eurovision, but the craft of live TV.
Such a great opportunity and also a blessing to work with all these international experts and professionals.
And know they are more than capable of doing a show like this.
That's Per Blankens, show producer, and Robin Hofwander, senior multi-camera director of this year's contest. We'll hear more from them a little bit later. They're among a team of very experienced personnel in delivering this contest. From major broadcast players who've executive produced previous contests in Sweden, to the very head of SVT Entertainment, to tech production experts behind contests of the last decade or so. Tobias Åberg, for example, this year's executive in charge of production, has a long history in the contest technical production, included headed up lighting teams in the Finnish contest in 2007. To names seen in front of the camera as well. Krista Björkman reprises his role as contest producer for his 6th time, including a 4-year run from 2016. He's responsible for the ever-important running order and musical flow of the show, and knows exactly how the contestants feel. He represented Sweden some 32 years ago. And Olle Meltzig, Senior Technical Director, who's been involved production-wise in probably more contests than most. His first involvement? Lighting and Tech Production Management in Stockholm 2000. This year is his 16th contest. These two were also part of the quartet behind American Song Contest, taking the contest format to the rest of the world. Okay, so with people hired, let's make a show, shall we? It's the million-dollar question. How do you keep a near 7-decade-old format, the biggest and longest running live music entertainment show in the world, fresh and a step up from the year before? Actually, that question is exactly where you need to start.
You don't really know all the answers when you start, but one thing leads to another and leads to another, and all of a sudden you have a show, and that's how it became. My name is Blankens, and I was the show producer for Eurovision 2024.
His role takes care of the framework of the show as a whole, from running orders, graphics, stage design, postcards, segments, and the actual broadcast.
As you know, there are 2 hours for the semis and up to 4 hours or even more for the finale. So there's a lot of planning on, what to do to open the show, and also what to do when the voting starts, and the interstitials and the intervals and all that. Even though there are only 3 shows, there is a lot of work.
This is his first Eurovision as a key program maker, but he's no rookie to the game. In fact, big live music competitions are his forte, with a notable related format keeping him busy for nearly 20 years.
So yes, so the show is Swedish Idol, which I've been working on since 2007, many years. And then the show across the pond is American Idol, where I got the opportunity to also be a part of the production as a showrunner for a couple of seasons. So Idol has been, what I've been doing for the last 15, 16 years. But once I got the opportunity to join the Eurovision production, I didn't hesitate to say bye to Idol and then try this show. Such a great opportunity, and also a blessing to work with all these international experts and professionals that are joining Eurovision. In every corner and on every department, there was the best of the best.
With Sweden being one of the most successful countries at this side of the millennium, with 2 acclaimed contests already under its belt from the last decade, what new things were brought into this year's production?
To ask all the big 5 and the host broadcaster to be on the stage during the semis. As we all know, they're already qualified for the finale, but it's also a bit unfair actually for them not to show what they got until the Saturday for the grand final, because then they're not part of the What a Cooler Talk, and also the fact that their home broadcasters aren't as interested to promote the broadcast and actually even put it on a big channel. And that's not great for Eurovision. And the other thing was obviously the voting, where previously for many years, voting starts after all the 26 songs have been performed. That means it's at night in most of Europe. All the kids have either dozed off or gone to bed. They need to be engaged and interactive with the show. And if you only have 25 minutes after everyone has performed, that's not enough. So we decided to try to open the voting when the show starts, even before the show starts, with a worldwide vote. And that meant that we got super great numbers, and also in the engagement column and the voting column.
But the overarching aim this year was to make the show feel live.
Instead of shooting everything towards the stage in the corner of the arena, we wanted to bring everything out and force the artists to do more live stuff. Being more of a live artist rather than a music video, which is also great and super amazing, because you're so impressed how they can create this world and do a number in 3 minutes, and then there's a turnaround time for 1 minute, and then another number looks completely different. So we really want to keep that, but we also wanted to add the live feeling. And together with Fredrik and Florian and Robin, I think that we managed to do something that really stood out and was different this year.
A fresh producing approach to a well-revered format. Now, to use that same fresh approach to the equally revered platform, the Eurovision stage. Rehearsals for the grand final are happening just over there, behind closed doors. But behind some other closed doors are the stars of the show, the crew and the VIPs that make the Eurovision Song Contest a worldwide experience. So, on the special one by these babies, let's take a look behind the camera, the screens, and behind some very highly secure doors to see how it really happens. Behold, the stage. In between rehearsals, you can really appreciate its specular beauty and precision detail in its grand design. And while united by music, this year's slogan links with the general concept of the show, it also links with the creative minds that make the production, two of whom united to create this year's breathtaking stage. Fredrik Stormby and his company Greenwall Designs take care of lighting and content design this year. If it's a big live event, Greenwall Designs has probably left its mark on it. From Beyoncé's Renaissance Tour and ABBA Voyage, through to involvement in the contest in Stockholm 2016, and was part of the team behind last year's winner, Loreen. And Florian Vida, production designer, who's no rookie to the Everest that's Eurovision. 2024 marks his 8th Eurovision production design. Together, they force creativity and inspiration to create something that's never been done before. For Fredrik, inspiration came from the youthful urban sights and sounds of Malmö, the connection from Sweden to Denmark, and to create a more architectural way of using lighting and video, infusing the Northern Lights theme art design. From Florian, with the bar already being so high for production design, the angle was to create something different, focusing on the connection between the artists and the audience in the arena. The result? A striking, large center cross stage designed to place the acts in the round, with 270 degrees of audience surrounding them. Above, the crowning jewels, 5 massive LED cubes weighing 2 tons each, wrapped in transparent LED technology. 20 light pods that can move in tandem, at 4 different points from each other, and even at random, to create a dynamic moving ceiling, complete with an additional 9 light fixtures each, and a spot for a drop cam right in the middle of the center pod, but we'll come to that a little bit later. Throw in some flown Scandi minimalist light grids, hundreds of light heads for specular lines of light, make some space for pyro, and you have a stage that's versatility defined. And to top it off, the green room. Hidden behind the LED wall, this splits into 2, producing a breathtaking effect when presented. I mean, of course, it is Eurovision. This isn't the first time we've seen this in the contest. 2011 had it used only in the final, 2010 had it to welcome the winner, but it started from humbler beginnings 21 years earlier in Latvia. The contest in Riga 2003 saw the beginnings of this novel idea, which, actually like 2024, had a lot of Swedish manpower behind it. The key thing that unites it all? Automation. Well managed and monitored, with some 196 chain hoists, this was vital for safe and accurate movement of every moving part. PTZ cameras were installed for safe and smooth operation. Automation also lent itself to the backbone of running the show through timecode and LiveEdit, where all departments feed into for producing, programming and note sharing, but more on them a little bit later. More than 1,000 square meters of LED is used within the design, with the backdrop screen alone using a third of this. 2,168 light fixtures bathe the lights with the latest in LED and laser sourced light technology, and the cubes themselves utilize transparent LED tech, allowing for immersive effects mid-performance. All forming a whopping 204 tons of gear hanging from the roof, requiring one heck of a mother grid to support it all. The positioning of this also had to be smart, to support the trim height of the moving LED screen of the green room. Creative Technology returned again as official event supplier, providing light, audio and video technology for the contest, reprising their role from Liverpool 2023. This complex and grand stage took 16 days to build, and a crack team worked around the clock over 4 weeks, programming lights and screen content, utilizing previs for accurate results. It's the combination of striking stage design from Vida, innovative screen content and lighting from Stormby, technical insights from the likes of Ulla Meltzig, and the scores of creatives and programmers that's created this revolutionary concept in staging. And most importantly, know how to have a good time. As explained in last year's production deep dive, as standard, timecode runs the show, with everything from triggers from lighting to automation, and of course the music itself. The backtrack runs in triplicate for total redundancy, as is necessary for a show of this size. 48 channels of sound is played out from the backtrack, mixed separately for every purpose, including broadcast sound, front of house, and in-ear monitoring. Let's cross over now to where it all comes to your telly box. So, you're on stage, tens of thousands of faces around you cheering you on. But beyond this, 163 million faces all watching on, live. I mean, it is a TV show after all, and multiple cameras are the norm. Plus, with such an innovative stage, there's calls for fresh thinking.
We were bold and tried new stuff for a show like this, for a show like Eurovision, with the set design and the camera placement. It was like a different take on Eurovision. And my name is Robin Hofwander, and I was the senior multicamera director for the Eurovision 2024.
For Robin, like the host city of Malmö and our Pietra, this is his third Eurovision in the director's chair, looking after contests in 2013 and 2016, but has also stepped in to direct Madonna's interval performance in the 2019 contest, assist in a creative capacity for a number of countries in the Rotterdam 21 contest, and was part of the directing duo in the American Song Contest. With over 20 years in the live TV industry at the helm of Sweden's key live programs, including the country's biggest, Melodifestivalen, he makes up this year's triad of seasoned multi-camera directors.
It was me and Fredrik Bäcklund, whom I share Melodifestivalen with, and Daniel Jelinek, whom I've done Eurovision with the previous years. I know them both well and know they are more than capable of doing a show like this.
Each looked after a different part of the production. Robin on semi-final 1, Fredrik on semi 2, Daniel across show and interval acts, and all combining their efforts seamlessly in the grand final. This year, about 25 cameras make up the production, but it's not just the quantity, but the quality in terms of well thought out plotting with this year's unique stage.
I think the set design is really what set it apart from previous Eurovisions, sort of going in the round with having a centric stage by thinking it had 3 fronts, like the main front and then the 2 90-degree angles. So the camera setup was with that in mind, to allow for performances to sort of turn 90 degrees and have full coverage in that angle as well.
But it's Eurovision. 3 fronts is never enough. Sometimes you gotta go up top.
In 2013, we introduced the centric wire, like 2D system going down the center line, which is so useful for doing a big show like this. And not being able to do this year due to the cubes, it got me thinking, how do we achieve something that still is centric and cool and can be sort of, you know, the key shot of the show. We started investigating the possibility to leave sort of a gap in the middle cube and allowing for a camera to drop down. That was tricky due to 3 parts moving at the same spot. And there was a 1x1 meter hole for the drop cam to move through. It was a snug fit, but it worked.
The drop cam makes up part of this year's specialized camera set, including the 45-foot and 52-foot movie bird cranes, 4 rail cams, and a 2D spider camera. They're manufactured and provided by specialized camera company Opatech of Ukraine. They're back for their 7th year in a row, following a notable appearance as part of last year's UK-Ukraine co-production.
It felt like they really understood what we were aiming for and trying to achieve with each camera and had on that.
Now, remember a few moments ago I said there's about 25 cameras? Well, officially there's 26. As opposed to cameras being used multiple times within the show, this one camera is used a grand total of once for one performance. Step forward, or rather take several steps back, Anton Tarrant of the French delegation with a very unique setup.
It was a wish from France to shoot it with this special Steadicam rig. They wanted to use movie lens and a movie camera, so we ended up with an FX9. And we actually brought in a French operator. It looked really great. I love the way it turned out.
To enable Anton to get smooth shots from lying face to face with to dancing up close with Slimane, he uses the MKV Omega AR, a camera roll cage that stabilizes the camera in any steady movement and can rotate at will, a first in Eurovision. Anton joins the roving Steadicam duo Tim Ternesen of Norway and Sweden's own Thomas Antonsson, who've worked together on many a previous Eurovision. Now, many viewers had noticed their broadcast appearing a bit different on their screens, giving a bit more of a filmic look. That's because this show is being broadcast in 1080i 50 PSF. What's PSF, I hear you typing viciously in the comments. PSF stands for Progressive Segmented Frame and is when a camera sends a progressive video format as an interlaced signal. In layman's terms, for the average viewer, this provides more of a filmic look. Seen in similar use in Sweden's Melodifestivalen, the effect was brought to this year's contest.
I think this was the first time ever that we produced the Eurovision in PSF. I have always loved PSF because I love this progressive style, going away from interlaced and less video, more sort of cinema-ish. And I think it's super for music, and I tend to use it on all music productions I do. I know a lot of people are against PSF because you take away some information, but I don't care about that because it looks beautiful. So I was very happy to have that on the Eurovision this year. I think it really adds to music production.
On screen, the contest has become synonymous with incredible direction and visuals. And this year, for the first time, vision mixing is being undertaken by automated camera cutting solution LiveEdit. It's not new to the Eurovision ecosystem, having cut its teeth on Junior Eurovision and the American Song Contest, a host of European national song selections, and right through to the Super Bowl halftime show, all just to name a few. But this is its first time taking on the main Eurovision show. And in addition to cutting cameras, it forms a production framework with everything based on timecode, allowing all departments of the show to, quite literally, sing from the same sheet. Or rather, iPads and iPhones get attached to their cameras.
We used it in pre-production as well, as a part of the creative tool for laying out all the sequences of the performances. So, for instance, the light designer and the screens designer, they wrote their programming notes directly into LiveEdit. So all the operators, they pulled their info from LiveEdit. When I sat down to do my script, I already had like a previs from light and from content, as well as the director's video. And also going into production and doing the stand-in rehearsal, the delegations, they got a link directly to LiveEdit. So we ended up having all their notes and comments directly in the timeline in LiveEdit. So that was really, really nice.
Eurovision fans will be used to what's called the activation cue, or the stage ready sound, first implemented in 2011. But for this year, as voting numbers were displayed after each song and needed to meet voting regulations, a neat innovation with the help of timecode and cues in LiveEdit brought the deactivation cue.
And that needed to be 12 seconds long due to regulations. So going out of the performance, we did a thank you shot and audience shots. And then the deactivation audio started. And then we had 1 or 2 automated shots in the end going into the next postcard. And by having that running off timecode, we could also trig the graphics with a phone number. And this was in order to secure that 12-second slot for on-screen graphics, but also to make sure that we wasn't adding a few seconds after every performance, because a few seconds times 26, that becomes minutes. So we needed to keep it short, but not shorter than 12.
Yeah. We finally found a way to make this show even longer.
But sometimes going off script is exactly what's needed. The winner's reprise, like in previous years, enjoys a freer camera direction away from the script. And this year, further inspiration came from Melodifestivalen, with no props being reset for the winner's reprise. The end goal? To really focus and connect with the moment.
It doesn't become the cool performance or the good looking performance, but it becomes about showing what's happening and leaving room for emotions and good vibes. But also what we had was the giant LED screen opening up for the green room, and once that was open we couldn't close it. So having that issue to sort of find a solution to this became like the most natural solution. When you're winging something all of a sudden after scripting stuff for 3 weeks, it's really it's new, but it was fun.
NEP, as official partner, provide all the broadcast facilities for this year's contest, including the OB vans, of which there's 2 running in parallel, so if one goes down, the other one can be jumped on straight away, and a range of technical containers, including the all-important TOC, Technical Operations Center. All the signals from the arena goes into this box and is distributed into the OB vans, and from there is broadcast to the rest of the world. So, with all the pretty things happening on stage brought to your screen, how about the other already pretty things already on screen? The Northern Lights, the sights of Malmö's urban cityscape and coastline with Denmark. Minimalist Scandinavian design. No, this is not an advert for the Swedish Tourism Board, it's actually inspiration for this year's theme art. The slogan United by Music strikes again, as a collaboration of 2 design houses and 1 SVT produced the vibrant Eurovision lights. Johan Bello of Uncut and Sidney Lim of Bold Stockholm created this bold look, built on moving gradients and modular boxes to enable a truly versatile look.
SVT already had good ideas. The main steer throughout the pitch was really that they wanted a systems first sort of approach to the identity, where whatever we came up with had to work seamlessly across the usual brand stuff, but also like in the show, on the stage, as TV graphics. We really didn't go out of our way intentionally to not create a key logo mark, even though past editions, it's a convention to have that. Because this time it was so laser focused, it was very clear that we were all about the system and how it adapts between the different formats.
They built an entire look and feel for the contest, which, once selected, got refined further with various departments.
The flexibility of this year's graphics, also because it came in so many different colors, meant that we could always adjust the tint and the brightness of it slightly for it to work best on stage. I heard, at least from the stage team, that when Petra Mede and Melin Ockerman turned up for semi-final 1 in the pink and orange outfits, they actually adjusted the brightness of the back colors of the pink and orange and yellow gradients of the home look in order for that to create some contrast with the host.
And the anchor of large serif typography, avant-garde and ES build to portray a sense of calming minimalism to balance out the flow of colors.
We know that we wanted to pay homage to the 70s, being the 50th anniversary of ABBA's win for Sweden in 1974. It felt like a good time to use a typeface that was actually from the era, with how classic it looks, but also with how geometric it is. With that said, it doesn't make for the easiest of reading, especially when you see it in scoreboards and stuff like that. So we then used ES build. It mirrors ITZ Avantgarde really well with how geometric it is. It's a little bit groovy also, but it just has like increased sort of legibility.
And in true SVT style, being bold with something different, especially with voting, we were presented with a new look to the results. The stage, usually hidden amongst fast-moving graphics, becomes part of dishing out the points. A 21st century method to the old school way where the camera was trained on the scoreboard as part of the set.
It was really fun to really incorporate the scoreboard design into the stage this year. When we started on the journey of creating the identity and the brand design, the stage was already designed. We already knew what we were working with and helped us consider the stage very early on when we were tackling what the key graphics should be.
Speaking of the scoreboard, this was managed and operated by a Swedish company, VXO Design. Significant as the system the scoreboard runs on, Casper CG, is a Swedish creation first created in-house at SVT and operated on site by its creator. Their open source system, dealing with a massive amounts of data, generated a slick scoreboard based on HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. Their client also enabled personalized views for presenters and for production to carefully position that 12-point celebration shot. In fact, this carefully directed segment was all by design.
That is a tricky moment. You want to see the reaction, but you also want to see the scoreboard and the changing of the scoreboard so you can follow along. The usual way to do it is to sort of stay in the two box, like the split screen between the scoreboard and the reaction shot.
We cut to the reaction shot to see their excitement.
337 points.
Then back to the scoreboard. Add the points to really seal the deal. An effective way to ramp up the tension right until the very end. It's small details like that that really make the show shine. If you asked who ran the show, you'd be right in thinking it's the head honchos at the top. However, it all comes down to a team of 36 speedy and swift individuals, without whom the show would simply fall flat on its face. Yes, it's the talented stagehands that power the jaw-dropping stage changes in the trademark 50-second window. Here's a look at some of the props they haul on stage, and the magic behind the performances they make. The UK and Ollie Alexander brought us to the inside of a steamy galactic locker room. The brainchild of creative director Theo Adams, their first Eurovision project, included this huge prop complete with a back cutout for screen graphics. It rolls on in 2 parts and was originally 40 kilograms overweight. So much so, bringing Ollie out of the locker room and into the arena was vital. Its size meant that while we were being dazzled with pyro, it could be taken down secretly before the song had even ended. Props to the crew for taking off the Swedish props, bringing on the Ukrainian cliff, taking that off, to Germany's House on Fire, and they were just the first 3 songs in the grand final. Switzerland, the winning performance, already impressive enough, features a fascinating stage prop that spins and pivots, all masterfully handled by Nemo. By creative director Fredrik Rudman and manufactured by Workshop Studio 703 in Stockholm, it features a massive ball bearing, chains and gears to rotate, and hydraulics to tilt. An operator off stage controls the rotation and speed, and includes a switch to control the tilt lock, all done in a flash with mystery hooded crew. But the most impressive part is Nemo themselves. Bravery, fitness, and a key thing, no magnetic shoes. All them to nail the performance while singing live every time. Finland. The song title, No Rules, is very apt with some creative flexing to hide not only his crown jewels, but the breaking of the 6 on stage rule. Here's your first 4, Windows 95 Man, Henry Pispanen, and dancers Jesse and Jasmir. Numbers 5 and 6 are backing vocalists Jeppe Lambert, Bahandi Egg, and Terry Mantere, doing double duty as man with the clipboard and dancing man in the audience. Here's a creative rule flex with number 7, our very own camera operator Anton Anderson, who, as well as capturing the performance on stage, played a key role holding a camera in front of Windows 95 Man's windows. A creative workaround, or well-argued rule break. In any case, no rules! It's that time. Here's my 12-point worthy FLiSS Faves. That sound. The activation cue, taking inspiration from Lorene's winning song of last year. I actually really appreciate how elements of the winning composition make it into the show. Of course, this isn't new. Some elements of Euphoria, 2012's winning song, formed part of the 2013 contest. In fact, the entire theme this year is stunning. The orchestral version, the funky presenter welcome version, the dynamic version throughout the voting that felt like a living, breathing part of the show. The entire suite is something I haven't stopped listening to since the broadcast. It's that good. Okay, so I have an older video talking about the best winners walks, but this year probably tops it with a beautifully directed segment of telly. From the music, as we all love, going between upbeat and exciting, through to triumphant and emotive with the strings, all seamlessly. But the best part is it's all timed and cued perfectly, so as Nemo reaches the ramp, it slips into the emotive strings, timed to the perfect zoom out, and the country name wonderfully revealed on screen. The stage, when it was on results and winner mode, using big text as part of the staging. Now this is actually quite an old school design device. Large titling was seen as part of the set in contests as far back as 40 years ago or more, last seen as part of analog scoreboards, before quickly falling out of favour when all went computerised. Of course, a clear exception to this is San Remo, which still uses this design motif as part of its staging. However, as part of this year's refreshed presentation, Big Type has made, well, a big return, and is a nice 21st century nod to the old school contests. It's Pietra having her own postcard and in fine comedic form, a fine way to mark a hat-trick of Eurovision hostings. A small detail, but made all the difference during voting, and something I really personally appreciated, the well-directed parts of cutting back from the green room to the scoreboard before the points are added to reaffirm the result. This is usually glossed over, and sometimes you see the board or the reaction, but this active decision of directing is fine television. A year that was bold and presented something new, staging to branding, yet keeping some key linchpins that kept this behemoth of production somewhat familiar. A production that, especially in such trying circumstances, and amid a backdrop of controversy the likes the contest has never seen before, was essentially a technical and televisual success. New frontiers of production design and technology wowed viewers and broke records, all wrapped in a slick thread of scriptwriting and charm from our presenters, and strongly reaffirmed SVT's broadcast prowess. With its third contest in just over a decade, leaving a satisfied audience that demands more and more every year.
We had such a great time. The team that I worked with and us, we more or less were up 24/7 for the last month when we all moved to Malmö.
The production was a success. I think it looked amazing, and we achieved our hopes and goals with the set design and the camera setup.
Some challenges, of course, as you all do, as we all do when you're making live television.
Just having that awareness, and also sort of on Saturday getting the sense that, okay, we'll see how this goes. But it went really well. We just want to have fun and put on a good show.
So I will carry that with me always. How fun we had making this show and how well everything went in terms of the actual production.
All eyes now on the native home of Eurovision, Switzerland, to see what levels of live production await us yet. A massive top of the board 12 points thank you to Per Blankens, Hofwander and Sidney Lim for sharing their invaluable insight. And a massive special thank you to the key people that's made this episode possible. If you liked what you saw, you know what to do. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel would be awesome. 12 point worthy. If you also want to check out my previous content, it's all here for your viewing pleasure. In the words of the ever great Pietra Tack, Förlåt, or as I would say, peace.